Hello, it's Joy Holden, and I'm here today having the pleasurable task of chatting to volunteers. And in front of me is Paul. So, Paul, I'm going to ask you the first question about how did you come to be a volunteer at Envision?
Well, yeah, first of all, good morning, Joy, and lovely to be interviewed with you. Well, there was a television, it was on a local news programme, and they did an interview, I think, with Joy, who was celebrating 100 years. And I'd really never known about it. I only lived just up the road, and I'd never really thought about this place. And I was sitting there with my wife, and I said, what a great thing. I wonder how I can get involved. So I rang up, and I said, well, I'd quite like to read, if that's possible. And they said, well, we have a lot of readers already, but why don't you come down, we'll have a chat with you, see what you think, and do all the paperwork, and we'll take it from there. So this was probably about a year and a half ago, something like that. So that's how it all started. It was on a local news programme, and it was a place I've walked past here, and I've never realised what's gone on. And I just thought, what a lovely thing to do.
It was meant to be, wasn't it?
It was meant to be. And it was just a chance.
Yes.
Had I not have been watching that local news programme, I might never have done anything.
Right.
And I came down and I was made very welcome. And I just got involved from there, really.
So which activity or activities do you do?
So primarily what I do is I copy the little pen drives and make sure they're packed up. I sort the labels out on a Wednesday morning to help make sure they all get posted out. And I work with some great people.
Tell me about those.
Well, the person I work with mainly is Ray, who's a 97-year-old resident. And he's absolutely fantastic. For somebody of 97, he just gets on with the job. He actually packs the little drives into the envelopes, and he just does it in a very methodical, reliable way. Absolutely remarkable at 97. And I regularly cite him when I'm chatting to people, saying, look, 97-year-old people, not all of them, but there are people who can do a lot of things. And they love doing it. It keeps them active, sort of gives them a purpose in life.
So a two-sided question really is, you've partly answered it, is what do you get from this volunteering, and what do residents like Ray get from it?
I think it gives him a purpose in life, actually, and I think that's really important as you get older. So I'm retired. I've been retired a few years, and it's something different to what I would normally do. I've been in business for many years and lots of other things on top of that. So this was something new, and it's the intrinsic value. You think, it's doing something good that people can enjoy. And it's just nice to sort of get up on a Wednesday morning and think, oh, I'm going down there, and I work with genuinely nice people. I don't, I've not got aggravation. I just get on with the job, and it's very efficient. And I go home and I think, actually, that's good. I've enjoyed my morning's work. Yes. And it's kind of good.
What sort of skills do you think volunteers need to have?
I suppose it varies into what you're actually doing. So the work that I do, it's just organisation. It's just organising it in a very efficient manner. But for some people, I've done a bit of sound engineering, and it's just the ability to pick up what's required and to be curious, I think, just to say, oh, how do you do that, or can we do this? It's really difficult. First of all, you've got to want to do something. You've got to, when I saw this thing on television, I thought, oh, isn't that interesting? I had an interest. And I think that's the number one thing. You can't force people to be volunteers, and you mustn't sort of blackmail them or sort of make them feel guilty that they're not. You've got to want to do it because you're volunteering. And you mustn't feel trapped, that just because you do it. And I think a lot of people are fearful of volunteering because they think, oh, if we ever want to stop, it'll be very difficult to stop. I mean, years ago, I was involved in council work, and a lot of people there didn't want to do things because they to be on committees because they felt that they were trapped on there. They could give a bit of time, maybe 6 months or whatever, but they didn't want to do it forever and a day.
So your advice to a potential volunteer who's thinking about joining Envision, what would your advice be to them?
Well, just come down, have a chat, see if you like the environment you're going to work in and the people you're going to work with, because that's really important. And, you know, if you struggle to get on with people or the people that you meet, then maybe life's going to be difficult for you. I think that will be difficult. You know, I don't think you're going to find that situation, but for some people they can. And then just literally trial the job. And I think it's really important in everyday life, really. Lots of jobs. Sometimes things don't work out. And I think you have to be quite strict. There's no point in doing things, and there's no point in an organisation having you work for them if you're not enjoying what you're doing. You know, and I think sometimes it's a bit can be a bit brutal, but you have to say to people, this isn't working out, or for me to say to an organisation, this isn't what I want anymore. But
clearly you have slotted in here perfectly. Envision welcomed you with open arms.
Absolutely, they did.
Right.
And I really like coming down here. I mean, I don't do as many hours as I originally did, but that just works for me as well. Circumstances change, and they've Envision have adapted to that. They know, by and large, I'm available most Wednesday mornings from about 9 o'clock, and I need to be away sort of about 12 o'clock.
Right.
But, you know, the more we can pack in those 3 hours, the happier I am. I don't want to be twiddling my thumbs. I want to be getting on with the job. And that's it. And if I leave 11:30, that's good as well. If the job's done efficiently, that's all I want to do.
And what have you learned and taken away from the residents and the clients here who were elderly? You mentioned Ray Dobson at 97. What have you learned about them while you've been here?
Although I'm not so involved with what I can tell is that people are really well looked after. You hear lots of things about homes, and it's scary. I'm getting older.
Yes.
I might end up in a home, and I'm not frightened, but you worry. And what I see here is a home that cares about its people. When I go over there, people are really nice. And I just get the impression that if you have family members that are coming to live in this home, I think you can be assured that they're going to be very well looked after. I genuinely believe that. I'm not just saying it because you're interviewing me, but I just get the feel of the people who work here care about what they're doing.
Yes. Yeah, I must admit, so many people have said that to me.
Yeah, and I think it's true. I don't think people
separately. They're not saying it because they think it's the right thing to say.
Yeah.
It's what they've experienced.
I mean, I would decline to answer your question if I felt that I couldn't say. I'm not a dishonest person. I speak my mind, or where appropriate, I simply refuse to answer. I won't say things that are not. That's my opinion.
Yes,
and I think it's really good, but you know, people are fearful of homes and with what's happening in homes. You know, the staffing levels are becoming problematic, but here it seems to work really well. But I'm not actively involved, and it's and it's not my intention to get any more actively involved.
So, is there anything you think Envision should do more of?
I've never really thought about that, actually.
Putting you on the spot there.
You're putting me on the spot, and that's absolutely fine.
Do you think they cover all bases?
Well, from where I sit, I think they do, and they're developing. So, the talking newspaper is being developed because it's quite an old thing, sending out things. Yeah. We're in a technological age, a digital, and that is being developed. And it's being developed at a pace that is sensible, that means people who are receiving the drive in the post each typically, hopefully it gets them on a Thursday, have got time to adapt and maybe encouraged to change to new technology. Okay. But it takes time.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
So I think that is being done in a very measured way.
Yeah. So the talking news, which is your particular area of expertise, and you work with Mike.
Yes.
So tell us a bit about the sort of material that's put on Talking News.
So this would be local newspapers, local magazines, recipes, competitions, quizzes, a range of things, and it's a fair number of hours on each drive. So it's the local newspapers, and they're up to date. So it's not like a month ago or weeks ago. I think also there's occasionally some of the national newspapers, the weekend editions. So people have the particular things that they like to read, and that's what they do. And poetry, I think in your case, Joy, you read some poetry. So it's a range of things that people would be interested in.
And how do people
sport
get...
as well, and sport.
And sports, that's really important, isn't it? Because so many residents here were quite accomplished athletes, I found out.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Runners and so on.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I just found out in conversation with them that sport was a massive part of their lives.
Okay.
And so on and so forth. But how do people get hold of the drive to listen to this? Who is it available for to listen to Talking News?
It's anybody that will benefit, that is visually impaired, and visual impairment can be quite extreme in so much they are totally without vision or quite limited. So it's just a matter of contacting Envision, just ringing in and saying, we would like to subscribe.
Yes.
How it all works, because I've never been involved.
But you put us on the path of how they go about this. They contact Envision.
Absolutely.
Yeah, to be on their list.
Contact Envision, and it will all follow from that.
Exactly.
They'll get a machine that they can play the drive in.
Yeah.
Or as we develop into Alexa and YouTube, actually people who are familiar with that might much prefer that method.
Yeah.
So then they can be trained. Alexa isn't available yet. YouTube actually is. The YouTube channel is superb. Absolutely. And you can listen to individual items. So if you don't want to listen to the whole week's Talking News, but you're just particularly interested in news from St Anne's or sport, then you can actually select that particular reading on YouTube. So there's a fantastic YouTube channel that's been developed and is being developed, and Alexa is going to come probably over the next year, I would have thought. And that makes life even easier for people. You just speak to this little box and it sorts it all out for you.
Paul, you have been so informative. You've given such good advice as well about how to contact here, and you've really fleshed out how it's felt to be a volunteer here, and it's been a massively positive experience. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you, Joy.